Victor Wembanyama has seriously been putting the NBA on notice over the past couple weeks, especially with that dominant performance on Christmas against the Knicks, where he did have 42 points. And Victor Wembanyama is seriously starting to look like a top 5 player in the NBA today. I think he's for sure solidified a top 10 position in the NBA. But honestly, I think we're starting to get to those conversations of, is Victor Wembanyama a top 5 player in the sport? And I don't think that's too crazy to say because we take a look at his regular season numbers, and the numbers this guy is putting up at 20 years old, that's something we have to remember. Maybe he's 21 now, but he is still ridiculously young, and we have to take that into account that this is the worst we're going to see Victor Wembanyama for the next 10 to 15 seasons, and that makes it absolutely crazy that this is probably the worst he's ever going to be in his prime and in his career, and he is still putting up 25.4 points per game. He's also averaging over 10 rebounds per game, which means he's putting up a 25-point double-double, again, in year number 2, while also averaging 4 assists, which isn't amazing, but, he's obviously early in his career, and he's asked on this Spurs team to do a lot of that scoring. They kind of put a lot of playmakers around Wemby, trying to get him the ball, and to be the most effective way to score is with Victor Wembanyama shooting the basketball. So the assist numbers might be a little bit low, but you got to remember he's a 7'5" center. That's really not that bad for Wemby. He's also averaging over a steal per game, and he's averaging 4 blocks per game. I mean, Victor Wembanyama is easily the best defender in the world, and it's not even close. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. And I honestly, unless there's voter fatigue by a huge margin, and they just stop giving the award to Wemby, I seriously think Wemby could win like 5, 6, maybe even more Defensive Players of the Year, and I would not be surprised. So Wemby's going to go down as a top all-time defender in NBA history. Like, when it's all said and done, Victor Wembanyama might seriously be considered the greatest defensive player we have ever seen, and that's because he's 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan, which just helps him enormously in the paint and being able to contest shots and block shots, because that's the other thing that the steals and the blocks and maybe some other metrics don't show is Wemby is contesting and deterring all of these shots that you guys are seeing. Because if you try to go up in the paint and you take like a little floater or you take a layup at the rim, Wemby's able to contest that and making you have to change your motion and making you have to do something different, or he's just actually blocking the shot. And another thing with Wemby on the defensive end is we are seeing a ton less people when Wemby's on the court attack the basket. I remember hearing a stat when I was watching the Knicks game, but I don't remember it exactly. But the announcer said that when Wemby was on the floor, teams are taking the least amount of shots in the NBA or something like that when Wemby's on the floor, like the percentage of, in the paint shots they're taking. But then when Wemby's off the floor against the Spurs, teams are taking like the most outside shots in the entire NBA or something like that. And that just goes to show how good Wemby is in the paint and just how much he deters other teams from scoring the basketball, not just numbers wise. And we take a look at the rest of the numbers for Wemby. He is a 7'5" center that is shooting almost 36% from 3. I mean, guys, just that stat alone from Wemby is super impressive. Being 7'5" and able to take 8 to 9 threes per game at a 36% clip is super impressive. He's also shooting 48% from the field. So he's taking a ton of shots, but he is still being very, very efficient. And it just goes to show how good Victor Wembanyama is. I mean, I was watching that game on Christmas, that entire game against the Knicks, and just the stuff that Wemby was doing, the way he was scoring the basketball was super impressive. There was a jump shot he hit where he was like falling away, hitting a mid-range fadeaway. He had a couple buckets that were just super impressive to watch. And honestly, it makes me think that Wemby might be a top 5 player. We could take a look at some of the last performances from Wemby and just see how dominant he's been over the past couple weeks and month. Like I was talking about that game on Christmas with the brightest lights, the biggest day of the year in the NBA. Wemby came out and scored 42 points, also had 18 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 blocks, and 1 steal. Now, they didn't get the win, but it definitely wasn't Wemby's fault. He did everything he could to try to beat a really good Knicks squad on Christmas. But even the 2 games before, look at the performance. 30 points, 10 blocks. Then the next game, 26 points and 8 blocks. That is ridiculous. I mean, if you started that 7-block performance, he has 7 blocks, 4 blocks, 21, 29, and 33. So that's what? 33 blocks in his last 5 games, if my math is right. That is ridiculous. When have we ever seen that from an NBA player before that they have 33 blocks in the span of 5 games. And it's not like he's just playing defense and he's just like a Rudy Gobert and a good shot blocker or something of that nature. He is scoring, I mean, on average in those games, he's probably scoring what, over 30 points in his last 5 games, 20, 42, 30, 26, 42. Like he is still putting up crazy good scoring numbers while also rebounding the ball very good as well. Like this dude is just ridiculous. And I think it's time to have, where does Wembanyama rank in the NBA currently? Because seriously, guys, I'm going to tell you 4 guys I would take over Victor Wembanyama. And then the next guys in the NBA, I'm not really sure if I would take them over Wemby. And I'm talking not this season. I'm not talking about in the future in 5, 10 years, who would I take? Because I think everybody would take Wemby to start a franchise right now. He'd probably be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So I'm talking about in today's NBA right now, who would I take over Wemby? I would take Nikola Jokic, the best player in the world. He's still sort of young, but he's still playing at that MVP level. Number 2, I would still take Giannis over Wemby. He's having an MVP type season and doing ridiculous stuff on the floor. The third guy I would take is Luka Doncic. I know he's not having the greatest efficiency year. I know he's not playing at that Luka Doncic level, but he's still putting up ridiculous numbers. I know he just got injured, but still, I would take Luka over Wemby. And then the fourth guy is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. After those 4 names, I don't think I would take anybody else over Wemby right now. Now, some of the names that you could debate are guys like Jason Tatum, Anthony Davis, right? Those are 2 names that jump off the bat right away. Maybe Joel Embiid, but he's been injured this season and not looking as good as we've seen from Joel Embiid. So right now, I think there's a legit argument that Wemby is the 5th best player in the NBA in year number 2. I'm not even sure if LeBron James was doing that in his career. And we know how good LeBron was when he was young and at this age. Was LeBron a top 5 player in the league? I'm not 100% sure. I wasn't watching basketball back then. But, I mean, Wemby in his 2nd year is probably a top 5 player in the sport, alongside amazing players. Like, he's going up against Jokic and Giannis and Luka and Shai. These are superstar MVP caliber players. And Wemby's right up there with them because of the stuff he does on the defensive end. I think that's what really separates him from guys like Jason Tatum. You know, Anthony Davis is a really good defender, but not on the same level as Wemby. And Wemby's still almost giving you the same amount of points per game as a guy like Anthony Davis. He's rebounding the ball just as well. So I would probably take Wemby over Anthony Davis in today's NBA because he can stretch the floor and shoot the 3 ball. And then I'd probably also take him over Jason Tatum just because of his 2-way play and how good I think he is on the defensive side of the floor. And then who else is there? Kevin Durant. I would take Wemby over Kevin Durant. I'd take Wemby over LeBron. I'd take Wemby over Curry, right? The 3 old heads in the NBA. So we're really looking at Wembanyama as a top 5 player in the sport. But I want you guys to let me know in the comment section down below, where do you guys think Wemby ranks? Like, let me know. Where do you guys think he ranks and who do you think's better than Wemby right now in the league? Because I seriously do think he's top 5. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.